Okay guys, so as promised, Dave and Vinny, and it's called Antiques. So the Rampant Horse was never what you'd call a posh pub. It was more shabby without the chic. Located slap bang in the centre of the Longcroft Estate, it had a reputation for pulling in the kind of crowd that you'd avoid on a dark night, unless you fancied a life lesson in Yorkshire grit. Which of course was why Dave and Vinny loved it. Ken the barman, sour-faced and ancient as the furniture, was polishing a glass and muttering darkly about the state of things as Dave and Vinny stumbled in, Vinny proudly carrying his new antique staff. It was a hideous-looking staff with a ram's skull crudely screwed to the top. He proudly held it aloft as he swaggered into the pub, like Gandalf holding the bullrog at bay. "None shall pass," he roared as he stood in the doorway. Dave, for his part, looked less than thrilled with his prize from the antique shop. A raggedy doll with a cracked porcelain face and eyes that seemed to follow you around the room, even when you weren't looking. It hadn't been his choice, and he kept glancing at it like it might bite him or curse him. Ken's face crinkled in confusion as they came through the door. "What the bloody hell have you pair been up to now? Get out of that doorway, Vinny, you'll scare my punters." Vinny thumped the staff on the sticky carpet with an air of authority. "Don't give me grief, you old troll, or I will smite thee." Ken looked at Dave. Dave looked at Ken. "Sorry, Ken, he gets carried away," apologised Dave. "If he speaks to me like that again, he'll have to be carried," said Ken, brandishing the protective pool cue that he kept behind the bar. Vinny ignored this exchange completely and gave his trusty mutt Scraps a quick wink. "Look what I got, Ken, straight out of some dusty shop t'other side of town. Fella sold it to me for a tenner, said it was a genuine artifact, a shaman's staff." Ken narrowed his eyes, suspicious. "Artifact? Looks like something you've dragged out of a skip, Vinny." Dave chuckled, clutching the creepy doll to his chest with obvious distaste. "Look what I got for my granddaughter." Ken looked distastefully at the creepy doll. "Don't you like her? You're trying to give her nightmares or something? Besides, isn't she 26 now?" "Yeah," said Dave defensively, "and she collects dolls." "It's got eyes like Chucky," agreed Vinny. "I swear it muttered my name on the bus." "You're such a wuss, Vinny," laughed Dave. "It's a doll. What's it gonna do, suck out your soul?" "Aye, wouldn't be much of a meal anyway," added lecherous Lee, chiming in from the corner, his usual spot in the shadows near the dartboard. He gave Dave a wink that made his one eyebrow waggle in a way that seemed almost worse than the doll's stare. Scraps yapped, clearly agreeing. "Oh, shut it, Lee," muttered Dave, casting a nervous glance at the doll's face. "Look, Vin, I don't want it, all right. I've already got enough nightmares without this thing staring at me all night like it's waiting to pounce." Ken grunted, setting down its glass with a grimace. "Pounce? It's a doll, not lecherous Lee on a Friday night." Lee grinned, not remotely offended. "Hey, watch it, Ken. I've got feelings, you know. I can always take my custom elsewhere." "Chance to be a fine thing," grunted Ken. "Besides, only thing you're feeling is yourself." Ken gave Vinny's staff a dubious look, scratching his head. "So what are you actually planning to do with that thing, Vinny?" Vinny looked down at his prized staff, as if considering it for the first time. "Well, I reckon it's got a bit of mystery about it. Don't you think? Maybe summon up some spirits. I bet it's got an attachment." Ken rolled his eyes, unimpressed. Only spirits you'll be summoning are the ones I got behind this bar. You're going to look a right pillock trying to cast spells with that thing. Dave, half a pint down and emboldened, nodded vigorously. Exactly, Vin. You look like one of them blokes from the school play. Always thought they'd make it big. Now you're walking round with a sheep's skull like some daft druid. Vinny jabbed the staff in Dave's direction, grinning, nearly taking his face off with one of the ram's horns. Jealousy, Dave. That's all it is. Pure envy. Envy? I've got my doll, Dave. Pointed to the doll, its glass eyes now an evil glint in the pub light. Dave looked at Vinny. Vinny looked at Ken. Ken looked at Lee. Scraps looked at them all. I don't think I'll ever sleep again, whimpered Dave. Ken broke the silence, snorting as he pulled another pint, and lecherously, ever the observer leaned forward. Tell you what, Dave, why don't you let it keep an eye on Vinny's staff? Make sure it don't run off in the middle of the night. Scraps barked in agreement, and Vinny held the staff aloft like a mighty wizard, or at least a Yorkshire bloke who thought he looked the part. Let's get another round in, eh? To the Rampant Horse and all its evil ways. Ken rolled his eyes, slamming 2 more pints on the bar. It's called atmosphere, is what it is. As the pints flowed, so did the banter, with Ken scowling, Vinny waxing lyrical about his new artifact, and Dave glancing uneasily at the doll every few seconds. Convinced it was plotting something sinister, in the corner, lecherous Lee just watched and chuckles, making the odd comment. Scraps, meanwhile, kerned up behind the bar, his only concern being when the next pork scratching might drop his way, and in the dim light of the Rampant Horse, the doll's eyes gleamed, just a little brighter, as if it was enjoying the fun too, or maybe plotting someone's downfall.